and salutations to Life and Poetry fam. Welcome back to the channel with your boy, your host, you guessed it, Marcus T. This guy. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be back doing this here. I gave you guys my word. I'm trying to stay true to it. I'm trying to be consistent with it, right? Right? Yeah, the marathon weeks are back. The first weeks of every month, we are dropping a video back to back to back, right? I know initially I said this, I got a camp on this one here, right? Initially I said the first 4 or 5 day week, whatever it is, but I'm gonna stop that there because I want to make sure it's literally at the first week of the month. So whether it's the first or the third, the first or the second, that first week, right? From that, whatever day is to that Friday, that's what I'm going to do, right? The first day of the month until whenever that Friday may be in that month. Prayerfully, if it starts on the weekend, then I guess you get the full week regardless, right? But yeah, I don't know. Take that back. We'll see. We're gonna play by ear just yet. We getting back to the fold, trying to get the swing back of things. So we're gonna really play this one by ear as much as possible. But we're getting back into the rhythm. We're getting back into that rhythm or whatever. And I'm excited. I'm excited to be doing this again. You know, guys, I love dropping content for you guys. I love the brand, the team. You guys have done a tremendous job of helping me get to where I am right now. I believe we are at 128 subscribers right now. Guys, that's a lot. For me, that's a lot. For me, that when I hit 100 subscribers, for me, that was like me hitting like 1 million, right? But because I know I'm speaking it into existence. I'm going to manifest it with me speaking it out and putting it out to the atmosphere that we will get to those numbers. So those numbers will come in due time. Whether it's next month, next year, next 2 years, I'm along for the ride, for the journey, you know, for the duration of this year. I'm not one who rush processes here, but truth be told, if we can get those numbers up like with the swiftness, it's gonna be a whole nother level of things. It will be a whole nother level of things. But yeah, so we are back. We are back. Your boy is back in the fold, back in the swing, getting his groove back, right? You know what we do here, life and poetry. We gotta talk about life. We have to talk about life while we sprinkle that bit of poetry on top of it. We have to do that there. And with my life comes a lot of things. It comes the stories, the struggles, the testimonies. It comes ministry. It comes poetry. It comes a lot of things. It comes family. And now it comes marriage. You know, I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. And the wedding updates that will come in the marathon. Hey, you know what? How about we add it to the marathon? We got an update on what's happening now. You guys know that with Corona, with the COVID virus here, a lot of things have been set back and postponed, and we are continually praying for those who have been affected, those any person or persons, families who have been affected by the COVID-19 virus or pandemic. My prayers are with you guys, that you guys can find healing and peace and comfort in this time right now. I know that words are just that right there, but I pray that these words are enough to, just hold on to just a little bit longer. And I want you guys to know that you are not in this alone here. My team is continually praying for you guys. We can't do much, but what I do know how to do is pray. What I can do for you is pray. For some people, that might not be nothing, but for me, it goes a long way. Prayer, not from me, but for me. Prayer goes a long way. Yes, we are continually praying for you guys. And everybody around the nation, believe it or not, it's a trying time. This is a trying time. So we're literally praying across the board. Like, I'm on my face pretty much every night in prayer, standing up in my chair, just sitting there looking at myself in the camera, not even recording, but I'm just sitting there praying. You know, if sometimes I got to pray with myself. So me looking at myself in the camera, it's me just going into worship with God in that moment there, and trusting that His hand is still yet on every situation that's happening around us today, right? So, with all that being said, guys, you can tell by the title what we're talking about. Come on now, we have to bring the poetry back into it, right? We had to do that. So, today's video, I want to talk to you guys about how I found my voice as a poet, right? You ready for the ride? You ready? You ready? Let's take it. So, right, finding my voice as a poet. It's an interesting topic to talk about. Don't mind me. I'm gonna be swiveling around a little bit here. I don't know. I'm still getting used to the chair. Yeah, it's fun. But finding my voice as a poet, for me, wait, let me move this pillow here because this thing will irritate my head. So for me, if 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 you saw some of the earlier videos when I talked about me and poetry, you know that me and poetry doesn't always get along. I'm a poet who doesn't like words. Words literally irritate my soul with a passion. Yet I'm a writer, right? But for me, finding my voice as a poet, it did not come easy, but it came naturally, if that makes sense. I remember when the first piece of work I wrote was a short story. The little old lady with the smelly boot or stinky boot. The boot was funky. It was a lady. She had the boot. But even when I wrote that story, it was back in elementary school. I'd like at least 7, 8 years old. We still had the floppy disk computers. If y'all don't know what the floppy disk computers are, Google it. But I remember writing that story. I wrote it in a way that made it seem like as if I was writing for a long time, but in fact I was mimicking other writers. Right? At the time, my mom and my father, what they would do for me is they were introducing literature into my life with Dr. Seuss books, right? Cat in the Hat, Green Eggs and Ham, Are You My Mother? Like those were foundational tools for me when it came to creative writing. Dr. Seuss, which is one of my favorite writers. I claim Dr. Seuss to be my favorite poet. Some people think that he was just a children's writer or whatever he was, just that and the third. I think creatively, anybody can be a poet. And what he did with those metaphors and combinations for me were poetic, right? Hence why I'm a poet now, because of Dr. Seuss. Shout out to him. But yeah, so I was writing stories then, and with storytelling, in the beginning for me was a bit different when I transitioned from stories to poetry. But I didn't realize that in poetry you're doing the same thing. You're telling that story. But I was starting to realize that I couldn't mimic Dr. Seuss or other writers in my poetry, because that would be like stealing. It would just be like, it's just not me. I couldn't do it. No matter how much I tried to, I just could not do it. I couldn't get that done. But I did it anyway. Starting off, I'm still in elementary school, moving to middle school, and certain English classes or language arts classes, we called them here. You had to have part of the curriculum was where we dove into short stories and poetry and things like that. So at an early age, I was getting familiar with the formality of it all and the foundations of how to write and structure poems and rhyme schemes and rhythm and all these things, cadence and all these things here. But it didn't please me not one bit. It frustrated the mess out of me. Formality in anything when it comes to being creative frustrates me. I don't think there should be a formal label on creativity, because you can't put creativity in a specific box. We all have our own niche. We have our own style, our own vision, our own voice when it comes to being creative. But still at the time, I was still mimicking Dr. Seuss, right? But now I'm getting transitioned into, it's funny because at this time I was going to, the name of my school was Edgar Allan Poe. If you do not know who Edgar Allan Poe is or was, right? Of course he's passed on by now he's passed on. Edgar Allan Poe was also a poet. He was a writer, right? So I'm in this school named after this writer, after this poet who's famous for his work. But I'm starting to mimic him because his work is in the books. You know, we're being introduced to those because it was our foundation of school. He was the name on the school, so that's what we dove into. We tapped to him at an early age. And Edgar Allan Poe, E.A. Poe was not, I don't think that kids should read that type of poetry, but we broke it down and we learned to dissect it. And in it, I started to see certain dark things and he merged it with light and love and death and life. And it was a lot of bouncing back and forth, but I saw what he was doing. And I was like, okay, so we're gonna move from there. And then we went to Langston Hughes and Emily Dickinson, and we were bouncing back between these writers. And I was like, man, they have a unique style. Even when I read their poetry in my own voice, in my own tone, in my own dialect, my own cadence, my own rhythm, it still came off as if I was reading it as they would want it to be read. So I would hear them in the words, I would hear them under the words, I would hear them in each stanza, and I would catch certain things that they would do, certain niches that they would have in their writings, so that at this point here, it elevates, it escalates, and then it pauses for a dramatic drop, right? So I was like, it's time for me to actually learn how to do that. If I can master that, I can be a great poet. I can be like them. I can have my name on a school someday, and be like, yo, Marcus T, this guy is the name of that school. If it happens, it happens, right? But so and all these things are happening, and my teacher comes to me. I remember her to this day. At this time, her name was Miss Preston. She was my second grade teacher, and funny because she transitioned with us throughout the school until I transferred schools. And even then, she found me one day. We ran into each other one day in the grocery store, and she asked me all these questions about why is this and the third. But because of her, I learned to dive into me and my work, in my writing and in my poetry. So at this time, I'm learning to develop me as a writer. I'm learning to develop me as a poet, or as a creative writer, I should say. Because at the time, I didn't label myself as a poet. I just wrote stuff that rhymed, basically. Like that one fish, two fish type thing. I was still pulling off Dr. Seuss. But at the same time, I was adding me into it. So I would literally break up pieces here, and I would throw stuff that made no sense, none whatsoever. And most people would say, okay, you tied it together at the end? No, I didn't. I left it as it is. And today I still do the same thing today. So I would write, and I would break up, and I would merge, and I would drift and drag. It was pretty much like a copy and paste type thing. On a computer, copy, paste, drag and drop type thing. So that's what I was doing. I was pulling his style, merging it with mine, and like, okay, now look, this is my voice here. But I was like, okay, this may be the foundation of something, but this isn't where I'm supposed to be. So time progresses, and I literally lay down my pen. I stopped writing for a very long time until I got about 8th grade. So this is from 2nd, 8th grade. My pen is dormant. I'm not writing a thing other than in class, and when you got to do those pieces of work that you have to do so you get a grade to pass. Yeah. So we just doing that type of stuff, and it comes back up, and I'm in class one day, and I'm just like, let me just write something. I'm sitting at my desk. I remember I was in a math class, right, pre-algebra, Walker Mill Middle School, and I'm in this class, and I'm writing on this paper, and this is the time we had the wooden number 2 pencil. You got to make sure they sharpen that tip nice and sharp, and we had that good pencil sharpener on the wall, that good sharp, that nice smooth piece of lead on the tip. So I'm writing, and when I finished, I was like, man, this is pretty good. And I was like, this isn't a story, it's not a poem. It was a song, right? I wrote a song in this math class, and it was a love song nonetheless. At the time, I didn't know nothing about being in love, right? But I wrote it, and it came out pretty darn good. But after that, I transitioned from short stories to rhyme scheme type poetry to songs. So now I'm coming back around full circle, and I still don't have a voice in what I'm doing, right? I still don't have this voice in what I'm trying to convey in my work. So I get into high school, and of course, part of the curriculum is what? English classes, poetry, right? I'm like, I got that. I know how to write this here. But unbeknownst to me, that in this class here was complete formal writing, complete structure type writing. And I was like, maybe I should have learned some of this back when I was supposed to back then. But I didn't. I grasped the main concept with rhyme scheme, rhythm, cadence, all that good stuff. But I didn't break down how, the true dissection of the how to properly, I should say, writing poetry. Right? Properly writing poetry. But my teacher worked with me with that one there. And he pulled me to the side, and he was like, look, this is good stuff, but what is it? And I was like, it's me. He was like, it's not. He said he saw numerous styles in one poem. He said, I actually write a basic, literary type poem. And I was like, that's what you got. Literary words, you read it. Literacy. It's literature. he was like, that's not what I'm looking for. I want to see you in the words. So I had to go back to the drawing board. I had to try to erase everything from my mind. And I was like, what would Dr. Seuss do? Literally what went through my mind. And my mind was like, have fun with it. Have complete fun with it. So that's what I did. I had complete fun with that poem. I wish I still had it today, but I don't. When you graduate, stuff go in the trash. Goodbye. Or when you advance to the next grade level, goodbye. Nope, I don't hold on to stuff. I don't. Maybe I should have done it, but I ain't got time for that. It's just clutter. I don't do clutter. I don't do all that chaos and confusion. So, and all this here, I'm finding what I like about styles of poetry, about the different types of poetry, and where I want to take my poetry to. How I want to be different from Poe, Langston, Maya Angelou, Emily, all these writers, and various other writers, W.E.B. Du Bois as a literary scholar, and these giants of literature. I'm like, okay, they found what makes them them. They found what makes them them. How can I find what makes me me? It took me till I got into college to figure out who I was as a writer. Now, with all that came up from elementary school until then, it took me personally, it took me, Marcus T, this guy, that entire time to figure out me as a writer, or where I wanted to take my poetry to the direction. And that's also why it took me so long to get the first book out, because I didn't know where I was supposed to be as a writer, as a poet. I knew I couldn't mimic Poe for too long. I couldn't mimic Dr. Seuss for too long. I had to find me in the words. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna put myself to the test. I had another class in English, an English class in college, Bowie State University, and I'm rewriting, and we come up with another assignment with poetry. You know, if I didn't know no better, I would think that somebody was against me. You know, but nonetheless, we got it done. And with that class, it showed me something about me. About one thing I knew how to do was merge the gap between this, that, the third, and the fourth to make the fifth, right? That's something I know how to do. And I did not know that I could use that as a style and to help develop me as a writer, as finding my voice in poetry. So I went back to what I picked up from second grade on up, and I'm like, forget what they may think. I'm not stealing nothing. I'm not taking their words and using this mine. I'm just going to use the style they write, the cadence that they may use here, and I'm gonna figure out if I can mod it in the slightest way to make it different, but not much, but noticeable to know that you know it's not that, but it's something new. And that's literally how I became Marcus T, this guy, the poet. I learned to merge things, and in that I developed a structure that I can use for pretty much any time I write something. And I know that when I write, in my mind, the cadence for everything is the same cadence as I write. And I do that intentionally. I want it, for me, when it comes off, to be fluid on paper. So that way it's there. But when it gets to the reader or to the audience, they can perceive it however they choose to perceive it. I gave them options in the style that I write, right? I'm giving them options. I'm giving them that breath to breathe it in and say, look, this made me feel like this. This made me think about that. I can taste what he's saying. I can imagine, I can visualize what he's trying to paint, the picture he's trying to paint. And in that was my voice. And that was my voice. I could editorialize, I can paint, I can illustrate, I can create, I can cook up. That's what I knew how to do. I found my voice in knowing how to do all those things and use what you learn to build on something, because you have to learn something to get somewhere, right? You ain't gonna wake up one morning and say, oh, I'm gonna do this and this gonna be something. You gotta, it's a foundation somewhere in that. There is a complete foundation somewhere in all that chaos that you're putting on paper or out into your next project, whether it's songwriting, music, or building, or anything that you're doing. It's a learning process, and it's a foundation of something, right? You learn pre-algebra to get to algebra 1, right? You learn algebra 1 to get to algebra 2, right? You learn pre-cal to get to calculus, so on and so forth. English 1 to get to English 102, you know what I'm saying? Spanish 1 to get to Spanish 2, so on and so forth. So I had that foundation. So I use that to build me up as a writer. And no, I don't steal literary concepts. I don't steal poetry and rewrite and rework or rebrand as it may sound like or seem. Everything I write is me. It's original. It's true to pen, true to touch. And it literally comes to me at the most dumbest times. Like now I got a poem in my head and it's just like, it's sitting there because I can't say it now because like I need to put it on paper so I can see it before it comes out. And I'm quite certain when it comes on paper, it's going to be pretty phenomenal. It's actually for book number two. Parental discretion advised. When it comes out, guys, grab yourself a copy. Also, do not forget to grab yourself a copy of the first book, Love in the Eyes of the Author, Collection of Spoken Word Pieces, available on Amazon and Kindle. The link is always going to be in the description down below, as well as where you can reach me on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or my email address. Always will be, those things will always be in the description down below, no matter what the video is. It will always be there. But yeah, so and it's interesting to say that it took me time to develop and frustration and confusion and chaos and cuss outs and rip ups and tear ups and breakdowns to get to where I am right now as a writer. But as a writer, we all have our own style. We all have our own voice. You know, we all have our own creative itch to do. You know, you got an itch, you got to scratch. You know, we all have that. We have something in us as creative beings to say, this is what I want. This is what I want to get across. This is what I want this to be. Yeah, your style may be similar to another person. It happens. Or if you might come up with your own original style at that point. You know, it happens. You know, how the cards may fall. You pick them up and you play your hand. I'm not saying steal somebody else's work. I am not saying steal nobody else's work. I'm saying learn from something. Learn from somebody. Learn something so that you can say, look, let me use what they're teaching me here to develop me. Or can I use this and mimic this here enough to get over here? Or can I use this long enough for me to find me for something I don't like, or what I do like, or what I want to try to do, to find your voice and your poetry. If you are a true poet, or if you are a poet, no matter if you're true, if you're writing for profit, for fun, writing for somebody else, just to be creative, just to release and give an outlet to something, find your voice in it. Whether it's anger, whether it's confusion, whether it's chaos, whether it's mimicking, whether it's combinations of everything in one, or whether it's a two-piece combo, shrimp fried rice, whatever it may be. I'm hungry. Whatever it may be, use that and say, look, let me figure me out. Let me get to the point where I can say, look, this is my work. I stand on it. This is truly authentic in my own fashion. Whether you are mimicking somebody else's style, just make it your own. Make it your own. Singers do it, musicians do it. You know, just like when you have a musician and they do a cover song. They do a cover song and it's the same song, same melody, but they switch up here and there. You know, so they might add they might go up an octave because the singer doesn't sing the same note, or they might do a certain riff or run in the song, and it makes it theirs. It makes it theirs. You know, and creatively sometimes that's what it takes. You have to make something yours. Find your voice. Trust me. Find your voice. Writers, poets out there, singers, musicians, find your voice. Especially poets. Come on, poetry. Life and poetry here. Life and poetry right here. Find your voice. Find your voice. That's how I found mine. I just want to get that out there. Yeah, I thought it was important for you guys to understand me and to start to dive into me as a writer. More in depth. And there also will be more poetry videos that's coming out. Not just me doing poetry on Wednesday, Poetry Corner Wednesday. Every Wednesday, Poetry Corner with Marcus T. Every Wednesday, Poetry Corner with Marcus T. Every Wednesday is Poetry Corner with Marcus T. Always come back to check those videos out. But yeah, there will be more editing tips and different types of poetry styles that we can run through and things like that. And some other great stuff is in the works for life and poetry, even for myself as a writer. Again, book number 2 is in the process. I had to put it on hold for just a little bit, but it's coming off the shelf within a week or two for me to pick back up, and so I can continue working on that. And yeah, I have my voice. Hi, my name is Marcus T. I'm a poet. It took me 5 years to find my voice. But even in that, I had a choice to say, look, whether I give up fail, sink, or swim, I'll keep pressing on. Encourage yourself. I have my voice. I can do it at any time, whether it's encouraging, whether it's on the spot. That's me. I love spoken word so much that I think everything could be a spoken. This conversation here could be a spoken word piece in my mind. Some people may not agree, but hey, that's their opinion. They prefer the structure of it. They prefer the nuance of the formal spoken word. This should go this way. This should go that way. That's their style. That's what they choose to do. I choose to be a little bit different. I will always be a little bit different in my writing. I won't submit to the ideals of others. I do take in people's opinions. I do like criticism. I do like feedback. I do like constructive feedback. And I do implement some people's, feedback. I say, okay, maybe I go in and maybe this doesn't work here. Maybe this doesn't reach the person I want to reach there. But to submit to a person's ideal thought process, I'm saying, okay, this doesn't go this way, or this will not work that way, or you shouldn't do that. Why don't you think I shouldn't do it? Give me your, let's have a conversation about it. Let's open up a dialogue about it. That's just me personally. But yeah, I have my voice as a poet. I know my style right now. It may change in the future. It's about growth and development. It may change. It may blossom. It may stay the same. It may just bloom like that onion from the restaurant with the blooming onion. I'm really hungry. I am really hungry right now. So I'm gonna get off this video right now because I'm gonna go find me some lunch. Oh yeah, it's lunchtime. Child time. It's really child time right now. So yeah, guys, find your voices, learn your style, master your craft, and have fun while doing it. Most importantly, have fun while doing it, right? So there you have it, guys. How I found my voice. I understood my craft. I understood how to be creative in my own right, my own way, my own passion. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah. But guys, it's been great as always. It's been great as always. It's been great as always, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel so that you can be a member of the Life and Poetry team, family, and brand. Remember, team, family, and brand. I want you guys with me every step of the way. Every step of the way. You guys have a stake in this just as I do. Life and Poetry with Marcus T. This guy. So, I love you. I encourage you this week to keep doing what you got to do to keep pressing forward. I encourage you to find your voice in everything, Find your voice. And yeah, just don't give up. No matter how hard it gets, no matter the struggle, do not give up. Do your thing. Have fun while doing it. Yeah, so Life and Poetry fam. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. It's been a blessing as always. So, as always, until next time, stay safe. Be blessed. We out.